Welcome to TPM Vid's Disney Beat, where we talk about all things Disney. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. There is no doubt that Disneyland Paris is the most beautiful Disney castle park. The attention to detail here is just out of this world. Imagineers did a fantastic job, and a lot of inspiration was taken from the other Disney parks. Like here in Paris, the exterior of Disneyland's Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is a restaurant, and the Cinderella statue from Magic Kingdom can also be found here as well. These are all pretty obvious if you're familiar with the parks, but there are also a lot of hidden and not so obvious elements that have a direct connection to the American parks and even New York City. So sit back as we explore the stories of the top 7 hidden recycled secrets at Disneyland Paris. Number 7. One of the first things you see on your way into the parks is the World of Disney store in Disney Village. This location opened in July of 2012 and features a 1920s Art Deco style, which is a classic style that actually began here in France. On either side of the entrance, you can find bronze statues of Mickey on the left and Minnie on the right. They add some life to the outside of the building. But what you might not know is that these are actually recycled figures from New York City. Since 2010, there's been a massive Disney store right in the heart of Times Square, but prior to this location, there was a World of Disney store on the corner of 55th and 5th Avenue. And as you can see here, above the store's marquee were bronze statues of Mickey, Minnie, and Pluto. Back then, the World of Disney store was operated by the theme park division of the company, and we all know the parks love saving anything that's salvageable. When the 5th Avenue location closed in December of 2009, plans for the World of Disney store in Paris were well underway. The bronze statues fit the look and feel of that Art Deco style, so they were saved with the intention on them being reused in Paris. Disney stored them at Walt Disney World where they were cleaned up, and in May of 2012, Mickey and Minnie arrived in Paris. They were placed in front of the store where they greet the thousands of guests who walk through these doors every single day. Number 6. As soon as you pass under the train station and enter Disneyland Park, a beautiful bandstand sits in the center of Town Square. It really fits the look and feel of this turn-of-the-century town. Well, when Imagineers were designing Main Street in Paris, the idea of a bandstand began as a little tribute to one of Walt Disney's original plans for Main Street in California. See, when Disneyland was under construction, Walt and his team went full steam ahead with placing a bandstand in the middle of Town Square. In this time-lapse construction footage, you can see them moving the bandstand into place, then all of a sudden it was gone. Walt Disney saw the bandstand in person and thought it obstructed the view of Sleeping Beauty Castle too much, so weeks before opening day, it was moved into the hub to the left of the castle. When it came time to design Disneyland Paris, lead Imagineer for Main Street Eddie Soto decided to include the bandstand in his design. Although the design choice was inspired by one of Walt's original ideas, Soto said it wasn't done to be an obvious reference to the past. It was more of a way to transcend cultures just like they did back in Anaheim in 1955. I mean, this does help transcend you into this little turn-of-the-century American town that just happens to be in France. In terms of composition, it creates a perfect frame around the castle, and it doesn't block too much of the view since this castle is much larger than the one in Anaheim. I think the bandstand really gives Town Square a lot of charm. What do you think? Number 5. Phantom Manor in Frontierland is the Paris version of Haunted Mansion, and I gotta say, it's one of my favorite rides here at Disneyland Paris. Parts of the ride feel very familiar, but then there are scenes that are very different than the typical Haunted Mansion scenes we're used to. Instead of the graveyard, they replaced it with Phantom Canyon. Here you pass through a haunted Thunder Mesa, which is the old western town here in Frontierland. Well, Phantom Canyon is actually home to a very familiar yet extinct face from Epcot. On the left-hand side, you'll pass by the mayor, and if you're familiar with the original Journey into Imagination, then you'll probably recognize him as the Dreamfinder.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
If you didn't notice, they also recycled the original Paul Frees Ghost Host dialogue from Haunted Mansion. Now looking at his facial features like his cheeks and nose, there's no doubt it's Dreamfinder. He's just missing that full bushy brown beard. Now all the audio animatronics for Disneyland Paris were produced and built at Central Shops in Walt Disney World. Since Journey into Imagination didn't close until 1998 and Phantom Manor opened in 1992, they would have had the Dreamfinder's mold readily available just in case they needed to repair or replace anything. Disney has a long history of recycling animatronic face molds for their animatronics, and the mayor isn't the only recycled face in Phantom Manor. When the ride first opened, some of the other town residents like the saloon girl and the bartender were recycled molds of characters from World of Motion at Epcot. In 2019, Phantom Manor went through an extensive refurbishment and some of the town residents received new faces, like the bartender. So in the true animatronic recycling tradition, it appears the Disneyland Paris team recycled the face mold from the pooped pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean. There's no doubt they're the same face. It's really fun knowing other well-known Disney Parks characters are hidden right here in Phantom Manor.
But beware of hitchhiking ghosts.
Number 4. This next one brings us over into Fantasyland at the Pizzeria Bella Notte restaurant. The building features gorgeous Italian architecture, and if you look to the left, there's a cute little mosaic patio filled with thousands of colorful tiles. Well, hidden in the mosaic are a few pieces of tile from a now-defunct part of Tomorrowland in California. Prior to Star Tours, this building in Tomorrowland used to be home to Adventure Through Inner Space. The outside wall of the attraction used to have this whimsical mural by late Imagineer Mary Blair called The Spirit of Creative Energies. Mary Blair definitely left her mark in California and even in Florida with her mosaic piece in the Contemporary Resort. With Mary Blair passing away in 1978, she was never able to add her own personal touch to Disneyland Paris. Well, in September of 1985, Disney closed Adventure Through Inner Space and removed the mosaic wall to make way for Star Tours. It was a shame to see this beautiful piece of art go, but former Imagineer Tom Morris was able to preserve a bunch of pieces of tile as they demolished the mosaic. It was such an iconic part of Tomorrowland. Now the tiles remained in storage for a couple years, and when it came time to build Disneyland Paris, Morris, who was the lead Imagineer for Fantasyland, wanted to find a way to incorporate some of them at the park. Pizzeria Bella Notte turned out to be the perfect spot. Now there are a lot of small pieces here, and it's never been shared exactly which ones came from California. Tom Morris said in an interview that the pieces are on the wall, which narrows it down a little bit. This unknown kinda creates a sense of wonderment as you explore the patio, knowing that some pieces of tile have such a rich history. Mary Blair may not have been able to leave a personal mark on the park, but hiding pieces of her work here are a perfect tribute to such an iconic Imagineer and artist. Number 3. Back over on Main Street, USA, there is so much to explore here. In the future, I'll be doing a full hidden secrets video of just Main Street at Disneyland Paris, but there's another detail here in Town Square that's a subtle reference to the original Disneyland Castle. The Paris version of Sleeping Beauty Castle is much different than the original Sleeping Beauty Castle in California. It's small and quaint, but what if I told you Anaheim's castle is hidden somewhere here in Town Square? Well, the Main Street Transportation Company allows the horse-drawn trolleys to access backstage. But this building, along with the buildings beside it, actually create the silhouette of the original Sleeping Beauty Castle. The silhouette is a bit more spread out than the actual castle, but do you see it? The center section here with the window matches this part of the castle, and then the tower matches the tallest spire. Former Imagineer Eddie Soto shared this picture on Twitter from his Euro Disneyland slideshow, and you can clearly see the similarities between the two. In a tweet, Soto said, "I always loved the composition of the castle since I was a kid, and the design started subconsciously. Then I realized it and went further as a hidden homage for fans to discover. And what a great hidden tribute it is. Now that you know it's there, you won't be able to look at the Main Street Transportation building the same way." Number 2. It's not a Disney castle park without a carousel in Fantasyland. Here at Disneyland Paris, it's called Le Carousel de Lancelots, or in English, it's just Lancelots Carousel. But unlike the other Disney parks, this isn't an antique wooden carousel. Everything is made out of fiberglass, including most of the horses. They were modeled from the same horses at Magic Kingdom and were also built at Walt Disney World. The outer ring of 16 horses in Paris are the only ones that are actually made of wood, and they were carved by a fellow in Ohio. The woodwork is so intricate and beautiful, but these horses aren't the only thing made of wood. Here on the carousel, you can also find two elegant chariots. Both are actually antiques that are over 105 years old, and they actually came from the carousel at Magic Kingdom. In 1967, Prince Charming Regal Carousel was purchased by the Walt Disney Company from Olympic Park in Irvington, New Jersey. Originally, it had 4 carriages, 2 small sleighs on the inner ring and 2 large Roman chariots on the outer ring. When it was refurbished for Magic Kingdom's opening in 1971, the sleighs and chariots were removed and replaced with additional horses. Disney saved the carriages, but for almost 25 years, they just sat in storage collecting dust. That was until former Imagineer Tom Morris began designing the carousel for Paris. He was tipped off that all those years ago, the chariots were saved and were sitting somewhere backstage. So once they were located, the team in Florida restored these detailed pieces of wooden art, and they were incorporated into Lancelot's Carousel. Today, the 2 chariots continue to bring thousands of families together while simultaneously serving as a hidden tribute to some rich carousel history. Number 1. For this last one, let's head into the Walt Disney Studios Park. Now, one of the first things you see as you enter the park is the giant sorcerer hat at Animation Celebration. The building pays homage to the animation building at the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, California. Now, one noticeable difference in Paris are the gold Tinkerbell, Peter Pan, and Wendy figures attached to the side of the hat. Although this building has been here since opening day in 2002, the 3 figures didn't arrive until 2007 during the addition of Toon Studio. And the best part is that they used to have a home at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. From May 2005 until September of 2006, all the Disney theme parks celebrated the happiest celebration on Earth. This celebrated Disneyland's 50th anniversary and commemorated 50 years of the existence of the Disney theme park. In Florida, Cinderella Castle received a stunning gold overlay which included gold statues of many classic Disney characters. The castle's largest spire featured Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, and Wendy, and thankfully there was enough pixie dust that allowed them to fly all the way to Paris. After the celebration ended in September of 2006, former Imagineer Jim Scholl, who was in charge of the Toon Studios project in Paris, said he rescued the figures from Magic Kingdom. By June of 2007, they were installed at what was then the Art of Animation building, where today they continue to add a little more life to that sorcerer hat. So, have you ever visited Disneyland Paris? Do you have any favorite hidden Disney secrets or details? I'd love to know. Leave a comment down below to start a conversation, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video.